To wonderful viewers and listeners, and welcome to another edition of the program Addiction and Recovery. I'm your moderator this morning, Jason Kalu. So join me as we welcome the host of the program Addiction and Recovery, Mr. Ramneris Dwarka. Sitaram Jason.
I'm Jason. It's indeed a privilege and a pleasure for us to be doing this program again this morning. And I think our lines have been down for a little while, you know. But anyone who has questions and so on, they could always reach me at the number on the screen 6713040 after the program. And I want to thank the people in the engine room, those people like Francis and all of that who source these videos. I always listen to the presentations before they lead up to the program, and they are so comprehensive. They're such, valuable tidbits of advice and so on. This morning was especially good for people, especially around this time, because it touches on a lot of things that, you know, I would wish we would cover in this program because we'll be right on the cusp of Christmas, Jason. You know, by now people are busy. In fact, after this program, I myself am going with some friends to one of the big groceries to get some stuff for a marathon meeting that they are going to be having over the Christmas holidays. And I'll talk a little bit more about the program, that on the program as we go ahead. But I want to join with you in welcoming all our listeners, in Trinidad and Tobago and worldwide who have been following this program live, and also those who have been visiting the postings on YouTube and Facebook. And I want to thank people for the comments that they've been making and the inquiries that a lot of people call me after the program, and they make inquiries, and they also seek guidance and assistance. And I welcome this, Jason, because it shows that the program is in fact reaching a lot of people, and hopefully it is making a difference in their lives. Although I think the drinking and drug use in the world, I can't say is been reducing because of our efforts, but at least I would like to think that we are making a little dent, and at least educating our population. As I have said on this program several times before, the intention of this program is not to demonize the alcohol use. I have nothing personally against anyone who can take a drink and enjoy it. And I know a lot of people are going to be using drinks to enhance their celebratory attempts and so on over the holidays coming, and nothing is wrong with that. The purpose of this program is really to educate our brothers and sisters out there so that they can make the right choices, that most important, that they can identify when they are crossing that imaginary borderline from social drinking into alcoholism or alcoholic type drinking, and most of all, that they know that help is available. This program also today, we want to target those people who may have made that giant step, during the year to do something about their drinking and are in the initial phases of their recovery. Because yes, historically, from my own experience and the experience of a lot of people in recovery, they will tell you that around Christmas time, New Year's time, holiday seasons generally, there's an incidence of relapse, that a lot of people tend to relapse, and we want to look at some of the reasons why. But this is not only targeting people who are in recovery, but there are a lot of young people who will be introduced for the first time to alcohol, especially. And I say that from my own personal experience. I remember when I was just about 6 or 7 years old, my grandmother, who loved me dearly, but it is the culture. She thought, out of curiosity, she'd give me a little bit of Charlie's wine we used to have in those days. Remember, Jason? I don't know if you're familiar with Charlie's. I don't see it again, but that was a very popular wine in the old days. And she gave me a little shot glass, these little shot glass they have. Boy, and I drank that. And up to today, I have never forgotten that experience. it made such a profound experience on me, to the extent where I would look forward to Christmas, because in the countryside where I grew up, and I suspect over in Trinidad at Christmas time, parents tend to have they have a tendency to relax the controls, and cut a little slack to the young people, so that in the village in which I grew up in South, around Christmas time, you would go visit your friends. And I remember, even with their father and grandfather, they would say, well, carry your friend inside and offer him something to drink. And it would be okay for them to offer you a beer or wine, or even a rum. And they thought it was funny to see a young teenager drunk. They thought it was a joke. It looked very odd and funny. But although during the year you were not allowed to do that kind of thing, you would be seriously sanctioned by even villagers, not even your own relatives. If they saw you with a beer in your hand, couldn't even think about doing that, Jason. In the community in which I grew up, you couldn't walk with a beer in your hand in those days as a teenager. That that was a no-no. So that around Christmas time, a lot of people will be introduced to alcohol the first time. And not only the drink in a glass, but remember, we have a lot of alcohol now in the fruit cake and all of that. Some people put in it in the mixing it in, the seasoning the meat with it, and in so many other forms. Alcohol is included in the preparations and so on. So I'm saying this to alert our listeners that, you may not be an alcoholic, but children inherit that predisposition from their ancestors. You may have a father or grandfather, or even a great grandfather who might have been an alcoholic, and your children could have inherited the genes. And when you introduce them to alcohol, there's a chemical dependence there, predisposition for them to become alcoholics. So that, I remember from my predecessors, my ancestors, and so on, they would say, if you don't want to go down a certain way, Jason, don't even look in that direction, because you might see something to attract you. You understand? So that, again, just like we say in recovery, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step. That is, all you have to do is to stop drinking today and stay sober today, and days will become weeks, and weeks into months, months into years. So too, the same applies to the disease alcoholism. So that first drink you take over the Christmas season as a teenager, a young person, could become the first step that you're taking in the direction of alcoholism. So I'm saying that as a broad, concept that people should consider. Now it becomes a little more sharper in perspective if you know that, look, you have come from a family where there's a high incidence of alcoholism or drug addiction. Because research has shown that if you grow up in a family with that there's a high incidence of alcoholism or drug addiction, there's a very, very high percentage possibility that you could have inherited that predisposition to become alcoholic yourself. So people who have fathers or grandfathers or mothers, grandmother, and so on in their family who are known to be heavy drinkers, alcoholics, then you need to be especially careful that you don't take that first step. And as I say that, I remember the first Christmas that I was staying sober. And, in the past, before that, I would invite all my siblings and so on. And of course, we would cook all the different kinds of curries and duck and hard fowl and all of that. In those days, I was eating all of those things and have wild meat. And of course, you'll have all the different kinds of scotch and rum and all of that. And by the end of the day, a lot of people were drunk out of their head. They probably had difficulty to get home. But my first year staying sober, I did invite all my family, but this time, boy, I went overboard. I bought sea moss. I bought, they have all of these concentrate Moby you could buy and mix it, sorrel you could buy, you didn't have to even make it. You can get all of these things in the groceries. It was like an awakening for me. I didn't realize that you could have all of these things already prepared. All you have to do is to mix it and serve it. And I deliberately went to the market and I got all kind of fruits, pineapple and well, apples and grapes and pears and all of those things, so that when my brothers and sister-in-laws and all my family, nephews, nieces came, they were all of these things except alcohol. I took it. I took a personal responsibility that look, in fact, since then, which was since December 1983, 1984, what I'm talking about, my second Christmas, and I did not serve alcohol. And my sister-in-laws and everybody were happy because everybody went home early and sober. You understand? And it is a fallacy that a lot of people, and even myself, thought that, look, you cannot enjoy yourself if you don't have alcohol. But that's not true. You know, if I pick you up, Jason and Francis, and we all went up Cora, and in the old days, we'll go up there and we make a cook, and I will pay for the dock and buy the drinks and everything. And you know what will happen? Sometimes I don't really even remember who eat the dock. I don't even remember how I got back home. And next day I'm vomiting yellow and green. And what's the good time in that? You understand? And I used to think, well, boy, that is having a good time. Now I know what it is to have a good time, because actually sit down and actually taste the food that my wife took all this trouble to prepare, share a good conversation with people around the table. You understand? Actually know how everything went and enjoy myself. And next day I'm not sick. You understand? And nobody vomited in the floor and made a mess or made a fool of themselves. We all had a good time. In fact, just last week when I celebrated 40 years of being sober, there was no alcohol, and I had all my friends and family there, and everybody was saying such nice things about me. It is good, while you're alive, Jason, to hear people say all of these nice things about you. What's the point is when you pass away and they come and, you know, this is actually it's a joke. I went to a funeral, and there's a habit when people die that everybody, come in the eulogy, and when they invite friends and so on to speak on behalf of the dead, everybody's saying all these nice things, you know. While the fellow was drinking, he was an alcoholic and he was really giving the family trouble and all of that. But he's dead now, and everybody's saying he was such a nice guy, to the extent where his wife called his daughter and said, "Hey, Gil, go see her in that box. Is that really your father in there?" Because all of the things they're saying she couldn't believe. You understand? So I'm saying that you can have a nice time, you can enjoy yourself, and you can entertain people without the use of alcohol. In fact, over the last 40 years, I got my son married, I had about 4 or 5 weddings here, and I've celebrated so many other functions and Christmas, and I have never included alcohol. And yes, a few people in the beginning would complain, and brother-in-laws would come and say, "But if you're not drinking, you're not drinking, but we taking a drink." I say, "Well, Breds, I'm sorry, but I don't serve alcohol. In fact, I don't keep alcohol in this house. I try to discourage it." And yes, I've had the comment where a nephew told me, Mamu, I like the old Mamu better, You were more fun in those days to be around. Well, I still try to be fun. I still sing and entertain and tell jokes. And I want to say to all our listeners out there that it is a fallacy. The truth is, you can enjoy yourself without having to take a drink. If you have to take a drink to enjoy yourself, then something is wrong. Then it clearly shows that you are becoming dependent on alcohol. You understand? And I always keep as my, well, he has passed on, but You remember our president, Jason, Mr. Hassan Ali, Nur Hassan Ali? He never served alcohol while he was president, and he has been a really important role model as a head of state who could do that. And he entertained several, there would be um, teams of people visiting from other countries, and he would serve them what he had. And I had never heard anybody complain. In fact, I think leaders, this is one of the key things that leaders in a society like we have can emulate, so that we set the young people are thirsty for good examples. Jason, I look at people like Pastor Dottin, who has never refused to come out and speak out on this issue, and he's doing programs on other media houses now. Very interesting. These are the people, you know, who set the stage for young people as models that they can follow, and know that it is possible in our own um, religious teaching. This is the same role that Ram offered to the world. The ideal husband, ideal son, ideal king. We really need good role models in our society. And I want to encourage you know, all those people who are in the forefront. I know a lot of members in recovery. Of course, I am not at liberty to call their name, who are heavily involved in Alcoholics Anonymous and who are carrying the torch of recovery and carrying the message by living the sober life. And this is why one of the public relations policy of Alcoholics Anonymous is based on attraction rather than promotion. The people who are sober, they live that life, and the neighbors and the people who know them when they were drinking now are amazed to see how they are living, and they're living to good purpose. So I just want to share some tips around this time. Again, I know we started some of them last week, but one of the most important some of the important things that people in recovery especially need to pay attention to is their triggers. We all have triggers, Jason, that cause us or tempted us to take that drink in the old days. And Christmas time, holiday season is a big, big trigger, because before recovery, a lot of people, including myself, thought, well, boy, as I said earlier on, you couldn't have a good time. You will not be able to entertain. And it is a cultural thing that I'm aware of. Jason, if you invited friends over by you for Christmas, and you offer them Moby or Seymour, so all those good things, you know, they will still probably leave and say, I went by Jason and the man didn't even offer me a drink, because Seymour's and Moby and all of those things are not considered a drink in Trinidad. In Trinidad, when a fella say, well, look, boy, last night a well drink, you know what he means. He mean he had a lot of alcohol. So if there's that expectation. But I have come to realize, when you say something and you stand by it, people respect you for that, Jason. That today, yes, I may not be as popular as when I used to drink, but I sense and I feel it, that I've gained the respect of my peers, my siblings, my relatives, and of myself. Today, I have more confidence. If I tell you, look, we are going to start this program at 9, Jason, we're going to start this program at 9. If I was drinking, you'd probably have to call and locate me to find out where I am if I had to do a program with the station, you know? So for the person in recovery, we need to understand what are our triggers and what bring these triggers. We have our five senses, Jason. We have our eyes. Our eyes is one of those senses that is often the basis of the triggers. What we see, the places we go, the sense we see people drinking, we see people smoking, it can trigger the urge. You understand? Then the smell, you smell smoke. If you're trying to stop smoking and you smell cigarettes, you can immediately get the urge. So stay away from people who are smoking. And of course, taste. Although rum never tastes good, if you watch somebody taking their first drink, how they screw up their face and all of that, but you'll wonder why they take, because it does deliver a feeling. You understand? It is a mood altering substance. It not only changes your mood, but it also can make you feel a sense of happiness at the same time. And someone, in recovery sent me a little, on social media now, WhatsApp, you get all of these little videos and emojis and little bits and pieces of philosophy and so on. And this morning, I was very fortunate. My daughter saw an article that was written by a local person on, how you develop the drinking habit, the Friday evening drinking habit that at first just starts as a social activity, but can easily over time, without you realizing, become habituated. So that another person sent me a note saying that, drinking alcohol is like setting your house on fire in order to get yourself warmed up. Imagine you're burning down your house to just feel warm for a few minutes, and then what happens after that? I thought that was very profound because it really captures what we are doing when we are taking drink or drugs. You understand? For that temporary fix, we are preparing ourselves to sacrifice so much. So that learning your triggers for a person in recovery or even a person who is drinking, it is important to sit back today and reflect on what are those situations that would trigger me to take a drink. And if the holiday season is one of them, then you need to become consciously aware of that. Because it is for a lot of people, Christmas time is a time when you see, you've been in the habit in the old days of drinking and, you know, doing certain things. So triggers is important for both drinkers and even smokers. Smokers, the triggers are even more profound and obvious because I used to smoke cigarette. And once I had a cup of coffee in the morning, the next thing I'll go for, Jason, is a cigarette. And even the night before, if I did not know I had cigarettes for the morning, I would have trouble dropping asleep. You understand? So that for some people going to the washroom, they get the urge to have a cigarette, you know, and the body becomes kind of acclimatized, habituated to that. So for a person in recovery, you have to be very much aware what are your triggers, and especially if Christmas time and holidays is one of your triggers, then you have to, well, the next thing you have to do is set boundaries, you know, meaning you will go so far, not more than this. If you go to a function and you find people are getting drunk, that is the time for you to leave. In the first place, you may have to decide whether you want to take that invitation or not. You understand? You have to know yourself and know your triggers. Because if you are going to now, if you know it is a group of friends who are going to be making a cook by the river and you know that they're going to have all kind of alcohol there and they tell you, well, come, we're going to make a cook by the river. You know that one is a big trigger. And you have to decide whether you want to accept that invitation or not, which means you have to have developed a certain level of insight where you know if you go back and take a drink, what is going to happen. So you have to play those old reels up in your mind quickly and say, no, 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 I don't want that to happen to me again. And you may have to, maybe you offend one or two people, but you have to be able to say no. You understand? So that a lot of people, they devise all kind of plans. I remember in my initial days of stopping drinking, before I had told a lot of people, because I didn't tell a lot of people I had stopped because I wasn't too sure I could stay stopped. But as soon as I was encouraged to tell people, because when you tell people you stop drinking, that in itself becomes like you're setting a boundary. because now that I told people, boy, look, and if I go and drink, what they must say when they hear I go and drink? So that, of course, friends who didn't know, and some of them who even knew, would come and say, man, take a drink now, let's go now, let's go. And I would have to tell them, and I never wanted to never ever in my life want to tell lies. So I would tell them, I know some people will say, boy, I'm using medication and all of that. And of course, that excuse if I'm going to take the drink. But I never wanted to lie and say I'm not. So I will tell them outright. I said, boy, look, when I drink, it causes problems for me. So I'm giving it a little, a stop right now. I don't know how long I'll stop, but at least today I'm feeling the drink. And I was totally honest with my friends, and they will accept it. And then they will say, well, boy, come now, you want to drink, you just drink a Malta or something. And I even tried that once or twice. And I decided, no, 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 you know what? Because how much Malta you could drink, Jason? After you drink two or three, you can't drink anymore. And after a little while, after they had a few beers, you can't even follow the conversation. And then I realized when people drinking, everybody want to talk and nobody want to listen. You understand? And if you're not drinking, eventually they all start to pick on you now. When after a few drinks, they will start to, use you as a scapegoat. Wow, you're trying to be priest or something, or they'll say what you're afraid of your wife or something, or you're getting stingy now. You want to, they'll say all kind of things. They would say, look, when rain falling, you didn't put out your barrel. Now dew falling, you're trying to save money. All kinds of things they'll tell you, even derogatory things. So why are you putting yourself through those things? I decided, look, then I realized that a lot of the people who I thought were my friends, they were not my friends. They were just drinking acquaintances. After I stopped drinking, I remember that I had just one friend remain. I was telling his son, I met him a few days ago. And I said, boy, your father was the only friend I had, after I stopped drinking. We were a group who used to go to Lime and drink. And after I stopped drinking, those fellas don't check me anymore. Only this one friend he would, and when he came, he was so concerned for he encouraged me. Although he was not an alcoholic, he said, boy, I'm so happy that you stopped. You know how long I wanted to tell you, but I was afraid you'd get angry with me if I told you about your drinking. So I'm so happy that you stopped. And when we went out together, in those days, he will not drink. And if we went to any of his relatives, he will tell them up front, hey, I know you offer me to drink, but my friend will drink, so I will, and he supported me. And that is what a real friend is about. And these are the kind of friends that a person in recovery should seek to find. People who will encourage you to stay sober. And I know that a lot of people in A find that kind of support when they go to 12-step group meetings, 12-step AA meetings, and so on. So you have to be able to say no, and you also need to make that decision at some point, and be prepared to make the sacrifice because it is well worth it. So that, as I said, for the holidays, what might be useful is to sort of create a plan. Don't get ambushed by your friends and or activities and all of that. Create a plan. It's not too late. Although Christmas is next week, Monday, but you can decide, look, okay, you know what, man? Over the holidays, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to maybe go with some sober friends and people in recovery is not a glum lot. You could go with some sober friends, that you have been, maybe if you're going to an AA group, you and your group could decide over this Christmas, you're all, making a cook by someone of the persons who is in recovery and spend the day there, especially if you're a new man. And of course, as I mentioned at the early, for the last 25 years, a group in my community, the Felicity Serenity A group, has been hosting a marathon meeting on Christmas Day. Normally, A meetings is not just for an hour and a half once a week. But this group, for the last 25 years, and again express our gratitude to the Mahasabha board, who has allowed us to use the school And not only our school, Felicity Hindu School, but there's so many other Hindu schools that have been used, given permission by the board to host meetings. You know, you have the Endeavor Hindu School on a Thursday evening. You have the Orangefield Hindu School that is being used, I think, on a Wednesday evening. The Devi Hindu School used to be used on a Monday evening. And so wherever, and I again, although he has passed away, I remember having that conversation with Mr. Sat Maharaj when he was around, and Lokesh Maharaj as well at Jagriti, where he did, in fact, he was speaking to Lokesh and some other members of staff and said, he wanted to leave that as a legacy, that AA groups be allowed the facility, because these groups have been literally saving lives, Jason, in the community, especially in the Indian communities. The Indian communities have been riddled with this problem of alcoholism. Way back in 1979, I'm diverting a little bit. Way back in 1979, I had done a research being part of a group at the Alcohol Treatment Center at St. Anne's Hospital at the time. And you know what were our findings? 73% of the readmissions to St. Anne's, a alcohol treatment center, were people of East Indian origin. And they were especially from County Carney and County Victoria. Because, I mean, this is where the Indian people live. To the extent where I felt so disturbed by those findings that later on I wrote a paper for the University of the Virgin Islands, part of the Caribbean Institute on Alcoholism and Drug Addiction program, CARIAD. I wrote a paper on drinking and drug practices among East Indians in Trinidad and Tobago, and it was well received. I was complimented by Professor Bobran at the time because he had done a presentation on that same subject at the University of Benin many years before that, and he was able to make the comparisons. And I will not go into the discussion of it, but so suffice it to say that there was and continue to be a very high incidence of alcoholism among the East Indian population in Trinidad and Tobago, Jason. And I'm sure you would be aware of all those chutney songs that have been sung on the stations, the various other radio stations, glorifying, rum till I die and all those kinds of, you remember those? And it is because the singers are seeing what is happening in the society, and these songs became popular because that is a thought that is shared by a large percentage of the population. You understand? And this is why it is so important that this radio station and this media house has been giving free airtime for this program, and also giving making the schools available for people, members of Alcoholics Anonymous, to use the facility. And I dare say that there are so many people today whose lives, families, whose life have been saved, especially in the East Indian community. And as I say, so I look forward to opportunities, Jason. I've invited, temple groups, church groups, and so on. I always accept invitations from them to speak to their audiences on this matter of alcoholism and drug addiction. But coming back to some tips for the Christmas again, as I said, make a plan. You could still enjoy yourself. Go with your sober friends, make a cook, organize a little cricket match or something. Do something different. Take yourself out of that old mindset. What is also useful is um, make sure that you take care of yourself. Alcohol in a way can be classified as a drug, but it is also a food with certain psychological effects. And you can get those enjoyable things from food and other things, so you make sure you eat properly over the holidays and exercise. When your body speak to you, Jason, it is more influential, more persuasive than me or anybody else talking to a person. So that if you stop drinking, you're exercising, you're eating the right foods, your body is going to start saying to you, Jason, hey, when is the last time you felt so good? And that is one of the most powerful motivators for one to continue to stay sober. So make sure you eat properly. We also know the word halt, the mnemonic, HALT. If hunger is one of those things that could cause you to want to go and drink. So keep your stomach full. Anger is another thing that could cause people to relapse. So walk away from the arguments. Stay away from contentious people. It doesn't make sense winning an argument and losing a friend. You understand? And at the same time, you ask yourself, what's the point? Is it really going to make a difference? Sometimes we try to correct other people, but nobody likes to be criticized, not even constructively criticized. So if it's not going to make any sense, you just leave people to their own devices. Sometimes it is good that they go and find out for themselves. You understand? So again, if you are in recovery and you belong to a support group, this is the time you would want to go to as many meetings as you can. And we are fortunate again, Jason, that we have online meetings that you don't even have to leave your home. You know, there are online meetings every night, even as we speak. So anyone who wants to go to an online meeting, you don't have to be in recovery. If you're curious about alcoholism, you want to learn more about it, all our meetings are open meetings so that anyone can attend, and you can learn about it and prevent yourself, or you might be able to help someone else who's having a problem. So that there's a saying, if you're in the water, you cannot put somebody in the boat. You have to get in the boat yourself. So you have to educate yourself first. You have to learn what is involved before you reach out to help anyone else. So now will be a good time. And of course, the marathon meeting will be held at the Felicity Hindu School from Christmas morning, 8 o'clock. It goes right through Christmas Day, right through the night until Boxing morning. And there will be a lot of food to eat and all of that. And there'll be some amount of entertainment and so on, maybe songs and so on. But it is really a nice place to be. I go there every Christmas. It's a nice place to be and meet a lot of people, who are in recovery and all of that. So marathon meetings are very important. As I said, try something new for this Christmas, man. Something that think out of the box, get involved in some kind of activity, you know, plant a plant, take care of a pet, do something constructive around the house, get involved in some new hobby. Like, I remember when I stopped drinking, I realized I had so much time now on my hands. Drinking does take up a lot of time, Jason. We don't realize it. And then I decided, well, look, you know what, man, I wanted to go back to school. At age 36, I went back to school. And that is why I'm today a professional person and I can be sitting and doing this program. You understand? If God, I said, if God self had come and told me someday I'll be doing television program and all of that, speaking with Jason and Francis and the boys on this subject matter, I would have probably asked him if he's drunk. You understand? So it is important. I know those some people may not have belong to a group, but you can connect with friends who are sober people, and you can spend the day with them. Get involved in some physical activity, cricket match. Yoga is a very good choice for people in recovery. It is something that I practice myself. I have found that, yoga to be especially useful because it led me to be able to do meditation. I was introduced to meditation, and some people like to refer to it as mindfulness. It doesn't matter what name you call it. A rose by any name is just as sweet. But meditation does not only help to just at the beginning of the program before we started, a video suggested meditation as one of those very important components of recovery. And I want to go back to a book that was written by Dr. Andrew Weil. He is a person, he used to be the chairman of the American Psychiatric Association, and he wrote a book called The Natural Mind. Anyone who want to understand addiction and understand their own relationship with alcoholism and drugs, if you can read that book. And one of the conclusions that he came to, Jason, he said, I remember he said that he has seen so many people give up alcohol and drugs and take up meditation. But he was yet to see somebody give up meditation to take up drugs. And I found that to be very profound because meditation to me is the one and only road I know to really discover oneself and to be able to really experience happiness. In this case, it is like, meditation, nobody can really tell another person what the experience of meditation is. It is something that is you cannot really tell. You can only say, well, it's good, it is profound, it is peaceful, it is serene. But no one will know what meditation is unless they have practiced it themselves. It is like ice cream, Jason. If you have never tasted vanilla ice cream, you understand? I could never tell you how it tastes. You will have to taste it yourself. You understand? So too with meditation. And yes, I know the 12-step program. Step 11 of that program reads that we sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for the knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. That's a very profound step. But that is why it comes as number 11, because you would have had to do step 1 to 10 before you really prepare yourself to fully experience step 11. So, around this time, what is meditation? It is simple giving the mind a rest. So, you can sit, from my own experience, it's best. I try to do it early in the morning at the beginning of the day. It set you up in a good place, in a good mood for the rest of the day. It takes the mind to a place of quiet and peace, serenity. So I usually do meditation like about 5 in the morning, just about 10 minutes, 15 minutes. And that is not a bad investment if you're going to make the rest of the day better. But so you just sit in a quiet place and you bring your attention to your breath. You relax the whole body. And whatever thoughts come in your mind, you let it come. But when the thoughts come, you take your attention back to the breath. And you do that for 10 minutes, and you will start to see the difference. Coming out of that, Jason, you learn how to stay focused, you know, so that out of meditating experience, you'll find when you're eating your food, you can actually stay focused and actually enjoy your food, taste it, and be satisfied with less. So, as a result of that, meditation is a good practice if you want to develop some discipline. For those people who want to lose a little weight or don't want to put on weight over the Christmas, meditation would be ideal so that you are able to eat a little bit and be satisfied. You know, meditation also helps you to defrag the mind, all of those unnecessary files for people who do overthinking. That is becoming a new kind of sickness. I'm hearing a lot of people say they overthinking. They're spending a lot of time, bogged down in thoughts because there are so many things you're trying to jostle it in the brain, the shopping list and the entertainment and the guests and the decorations and all the invitations and the whole and you know there's so much additional things that, and as I say that, a lot of people, this morning I was out on the road early this morning to give us a relative a lift and found that there are people who are still out there drunk and driving on the road. Jason, one guy coming in the middle of the road, like if it's nobody business. I had to sound my horn and he had all his bright lights on, and then he swerved to the left. And then it occurred to me that you have to be especially careful on the road. So, as we're coming to the end of this program, I want to say to all our listeners, please, yes, take your drink, enjoy yourself. If you don't have to, you can test yourself. You should challenge yourself over these holidays to see if you can enjoy yourself without taking a drink. But if you have to take a drink to enjoy yourself, then you need to be concerned, because that's not normal. You understand? It means that you probably becoming dependent. In fact, one of the simplest rule, yardstick to measure whether you're an alcoholic, Jason, is if you have to try to stop drinking. You don't have to try to stop drinking orange juice or sea moss or grapefruit juice or anything like that. Why it is taking so much effort for you to stay away from the alcohol? You know why? Because you're becoming dependent on it. You understand? And no one should, the only person we should become dependent on, Jason, is God. We shouldn't become dependent on anyone else or anything else. So, having said that, I want to wish all our listeners who have supported us all through the year a happy and sober Christmas. And I know we are going to have the program next week, Thursday, again, to find out. Hopefully, none of us who listening to the program this time slipped and relapsed. But if you did, please remember that relapse is not abnormal. It is part of recovery. You see, some of us so hardened, we don't believe anything Mr. Dwarika say or Jason say. You know, we believe that we could handle this stuff, and then we find out we are burning down our house just to warm our bodies for a few minutes. So thank you very much, Jason. Thank the team in the back for hosting me and providing those very enlightening videos. Until we see again after. Happy Christmas and Merry Christmas to all of you and the staff at Jagriti.
Of
And
course.
until we see next week.
Yeah, so here's wishing you and the family as well a happy holidays again, Mr. Dwarka. And of course, like Mr. Dwarka said, pay attention to your triggers and also create a plan, because yes, the holiday season is a joyous one, but it can also be a lonely one as well too. So until next Thursday, our final episode, I'm Jason Toulouse, saying see you around for now.
All right.